Hi there. My name is Zuri Marjani, and this is my artifact analysis presentation for MAE 675 Practitioner Research and Custom. This is the last class that I need for my Master's of Arts in Education degree at National University. It is my capstone class. I already hold a Bachelor of Arts in English with a secondary education emphasis from Oglethorpe University in Atlanta, Georgia. I have my single subject credential for English with CLAD emphasis, also from National University. And I have a single subject introductory social science credential as well. Right now, I teach history at middle school. I teach ancient world history and geography for sixth grade. And I also, for many, many years, taught English language arts for middle school as well. These are our program learning outcomes for MAE 670. Basically, there are learning goals. If you are in education, we basically would say to our students, these are our standards, our learning standards. And I'm going to, throughout this program, throughout this presentation, talk about how I've integrated the PLOs, the program learning objectives, to my studies over the course of my degree program. I will give examples of how a particular learning objective was introduced or developed or mastered based on my study and my coursework. Ooh, this is a doozy, isn't it? This is my plan of study and program learning outcomes. This grid basically represents the courses that make up my master's study program. I transferred the majority of these classes into the program of the plan of study, and with the last few being done very, very recently. You'll see on the side the PLOs, the program learning objectives, whether or not they were introduced, which would be I, developed, which would be D, or mastered, which would be M. For each one of these classes, I'm going to present artifacts, some of them student-based, some of them teacher-based, and some a combination. And I'll talk about the program learning outcomes that were addressed in each of the classes and how I approached those learning outcomes and goals along my journey. Alrighty. For the class that we know as CLD 611, Psychology Applied to the Teaching of Diverse Students, you'll see two different artifacts. The top one basically shows books, professional development work that I have done and did do for this particular class. Our professor encouraged us to learn as much as we could about diverse learners and to be professionally developed and do our own independent professional development. I've read way more books than that, but this is just a sampling of some of the books that I've used to help me understand how to best serve and teach the students that are from diverse populations. I myself am one of those learners. We have worksheets, Don't Grow Dendrites. I absolutely love Marcia Tate, and she's also from Atlanta, Georgia, or she lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And I've seen some of her seminars and seen her in person. And a few of these people actually whose books I've actually gone to see. I keep a journal, a reflective journal. And with that, that's looking at program learning outcome 4 or objective 4, which was introduced in this class and I've continued to develop through ongoing independent professional development. At the bottom, you see some student artifacts, and this represents PLO2, which was developed during this particular course that required practitioner, and I would be a practitioner, to develop a literacy lesson using culturally relevant materials and pedagogy to address the needs of a specific learner population, which for in this case was diverse learners. I have some professional development down there. I actually used tiered instruction for these assignments, for these project-based learnings and literature circles. So there was a literature circle that was done for Watson's Go to Birmingham, and students made their own, basically, they made their own books, retellings of the story, chapter by chapter. So for each chapter, they read and then they summarized the chapter, and then they illustrated their summaries and presented them to the classmates in their literacy groups. You'll see AIDA, and that I actually use that picture book when I'm teaching history. So it has Ethiopian princess and who falls in love with an Egyptian soldier during the time that those two nations during ancient times were at war. So I use that to help the students understand history. Finding Langston is another novel that I helped develop curriculum for at our school. And Red Pyramid is a graphic novel, which is related to the history unit, the Egypt unit. It's a wonderful book by Rick Riordan, and they've now adapted it into a graphic novel. The characters are very diverse, and you just don't get to see a lot of novels for diverse learners that have fantasy and sci-fi and amazing superpowers and also related to the curriculum. So this was a fab one that we developed, also part of PLO2 as well as PLO4. This class, EXC 625, is Exceptional Children in the Classroom. My teacher artifacts show that PLO2 was introduced and developed. As for this class, we learned about and designed lessons to meet the needs of exceptional learners. For this project, I focused on GATE students, the gifted populations, but I use these same principles with my special education students and my resource students. I like to use choice and empowering students to direct their learning. That's a strategy that I learned and used as a result of this class. And I use that for note taking. In history, students take lots of notes. And I use different ways for them to do their note taking. So they can do visuals. We have makeable books, smush books, and pamphlets, and they use those to help them take notes, which helps to guide their learning as well. So I basically applied learning science and personal reflection to assist my learners and their families in these populations. That is PLO 4, which is reflection and professional development, which you also see with the Gifted Symposium. I also attend different conferences every year. And as well as other conferences. So yeah, that's PLO 4, and PLO 2 is the specific populations. Next, for the class CLD 625A, Curriculum and Procedures for Secondary and Middle School, you'll see artifacts. You'll see actually a couple. You'll see some student-based artifacts as well as teacher-based. Right here, you're going to see my lesson plan for the Egyptian artifact analysis, where I had students take reproduction of Egyptian artifacts and analyze them to explain what they could glean and learn about that civilization, if it was indeed a civilization, from their artifacts. They looked at writing and literature. They looked at, do we see evidence of the arts, government, religion, and so forth. PLO2 was introduced and developed as practitioners, which would be myself, design multimodality lessons to encourage hands-on learning and discussion techniques and critical thinking skills. I also incorporated customized learning and collaboration, which aligns with PLO2. You will see students working together in cooperative groups and making mind maps and analyzing their artifact. They had to give rationales for why they thought what they thought. They were able to do research in their textbook and beyond. It was a wonderful project, and I'm glad I got to do it as a result of what I learned in CLD 625A. For CLD 625B, I learned instructional strategies for secondary and middle school. There's a teacher artifact there, which is my book, not my book that I wrote, but a book that I use called Strategies to Integrate the Arts into Social Studies. And I love using the techniques in that book, which also shows that I'm constantly doing professional development and research and learning techniques to help me help my students. um, I use regular reflection, and that's PLO4, which is I continue to develop to inform curricular planning. This project, for this project, students got to use their learning as assessment. So students could choose, because I like to infuse choice, which I learned in this class, students could choose to do a Athenian polis coin proposal, where they designed a coin and figured out what materials would be used based on resources in ancient Athens. And they designed a coin that would represent Athens, their culture, their values, their products, the arts, their government and leadership, and geography. For this project, this course is aligned with PLO2, since I mastered how to use creative hands-on project-based learning activities and presentations to help assess student progress and success. The students could choose to do a project, or they could take a traditional summative test. And the majority of them like doing projects. They like showing off what they've learned in their own words. Hi, fabulous students. Miss Marjani here, showing you how to do your presentation. I'm going to show you an example of one I did. This is my bookmark. Awesome sauce. All right, so this is my name. My name is Zuri. This is the symbol for a Z. This is a chick. It's the symbol of a U. And I'm going to stop that there. Oops. I'm going to stop that there so that we can talk about what this is. For EDT 612, I learned so much. This is the meaningful learning class. I was able to get students to apply traditional learning standards and technology-based methods, and lesson-based web projects. I developed a web project called the Egyptian Papyrus Bookmark Project. I know that's a lot to say. This helped me with PLO 1. It was I introduced students to learning to integrate technology into the classroom, and I learned how to integrate Flip as a technological resource. I also designated this learning experience as developing and mastery for PLO2, which was customizing and creating instructional content using advanced technology skills for different populations of students. The students, we had just gone into we were doing at-home learning during COVID, and I had to teach students how to use this technology while they were at home. It was quite a challenge that I loved. Um, so students learned how to write their name in hieroglyphics. They created a bookmark. On papyrus, they learned about the religion, the arts, technology, and so forth of ancient Egypt, and demonstrated their learning about those things on their bookmark. And they talked about what the symbols that made up the hieroglyphics of their name told them about the ancient Egyptian people, their land, and their culture. I give students typically an example of how to do something before I ask them to do it, and this is just an example of that. So that's my teacher artifact. You'll also see my project planning activity here. I'm going to actually end up um, developing this same lesson and extending it for my diverse populations as well as gifted populations together. So you'll see this one again. All right. Next up, CLD 623, English language development in the content areas. Um, I love this class because it helped me to help my ELD students and ESL students with literacy and teaching history. Many students in those populations struggle with the technical vocabulary. And so I teach them to do vocab tunes. So I front load with this type of activity. It's a formative activity. Um, it aligns with PLO2 because I'm strategizing to help specific student populations with subjects like technical literacy, English literacy, and critical thinking skills. I developed and mastered the use of reflection here by developing a project-based learning activity and tools to nurture student engagement, progress, and success. Students love doing this activity. When I used to do those old-fashioned vocab assignments, they hated them. They absolutely love doing vocab tunes. Students who struggle with English love to show you how good they are, how good they are with showing visual representations of the things that they're learning, and they do quite well at it. And so I got to learn that in this class and have fun with them. Um, there we go. So I'm using formative and summative assessments to tailor my curriculum to my students' needs. That's PLO2. All right, let's go on to the next one. In CLD 624, reading in the content areas, I am pushing literacy through history, as I love to do. This is an extension of the Egyptian bookmark project, the Papyrus bookmark project. I provide the materials for the students. I typically will write a grant to get materials. Um, I develop strategies of extending literacy to the content areas here. The students basically worked on their speaking and listening skill components, and I applied that to the project. So that would now bring in PLO1 because the students used the technology to further develop themselves. This learning experience also aligns with PLO4 because I created grading guides and rubrics to help assess the student learning, but also to help students assess their own learning. Then they assess the learning. They also assess their peers. So I created a peer assessment component of this project. And they did that by using technology. So it's also PLO1. As you'll see here up top, this student, all of the students actually record their project in Flip. I teach them how to use the technology. I teach them best practices for using technology. And you'll see to the side of the student, you'll see the peer review. So students use the documents here. This is the lesson packet, and this is the peer review form. They watch their peer do their presentation online through Flip, and then they give them comments, but they don't just type comments like on Facebook. They actually have to fill out a form and go through they go through the project, score their peer, and then upload their comments, and they have to learn how to make creative criticism, and then they turn the form in. Students actually get graded for their peer reviews as well as for their own project. So I love this project. All right. This is MAE 610, Plan of Study and Practitioner Research. For this project, I am focusing on the introduction and development of PLO3 because this project is very much research-based. I also did some PLO1 because I learned how to use technology um, in order to do the research, learned a lot of the different tools that are available to National University students, including the digital library. My source practitioner question was, what is the relationship between implementation of a culturally relevant pedagogy-based teaching of history and measures of skills development in middle grade learners? for this project, I had to read a, source practitioner study and summarize it, and analyze data and use technology to do so. There was much reflection on for this as well. So it's still a little bit of PLO. It's also a bit of PLO4, but I would say if that just introductory. I'm going to do a lot more of that for the next one, which is this. This is my baby here. MAE 670, Applied Practitioner Research and Custom Study. This is the class that I'm doing this capstone project for. And then the project you see on screen is another one of the projects. It is basically, in a perfect world, if you had the funding to do research, what would you research? And so my question, I shifted from what is the relationship between implementation of a culturally relevant pedagogy-based teaching of history and measures of skills development in middle grade learners. I actually changed that to the teaching of literacy. It was easier to find information on literacy. I read lots and lots and lots of articles, but literacy is taught in history, so I shifted that way. This is a research proposal. I looked at research. I summarized 5 research proposals as background for rationale to do more research for this proposal. I summarized those, and the chart over to your left is a bit of that summarization. I was able to do a abstract and put together all of the elements of a research study of my own, including the timeline, the participants, which would be students and teachers, as well as so many other things. The methods, the procedures, the intended outcomes, and this study really was a challenge. And at one point, I completely started over, but it was so rewarding, and I learned so much. It aligns with PLO3, but also in order to do this research, in order to do this proposal, you have to have had a mastery of PLO 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this project aligns with all 4 of those. Um, so yeah, wonderful. If I could do this research, that would be amazing. All right, that's it for me. Another National University student. After this, in a few days, I guess I will be preparing to be a Master of Arts in Education. And after that, I'm going to be applying to get my, applying to a program to study for administrative credentials so that I can possibly become a vice principal or principal and affect change outside the classroom, um, by helping and mentoring other teachers, as well as the students, the parents, and schools. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I really enjoyed this journey. Thank you for listening.